What's up everyone, welcome back to a brand new video on Lex Alexis. Today we are going to start with the early predictions. Finally, I'm going to give you guys my current thoughts of all of the 24 teams in the Championship for the upcoming 22-23 seasons, which is coming in the next month or so. It's a month and 2 days till the season starts. So I think now, as we're approaching 4 weeks before the season starts, I think now's the right time to start revealing my early thoughts and chances of all of those teams going into the new season. If you guys like what you see, please give the video a like. It does tremendously help the channel. Please do hit the subscribe button if you've not done so. It really helps the growth of this channel. And please also share this channel to as many people as you can. All of that really helps too. But without any further ado, let's start revealing my early thoughts of who I think will get relegated and who I think will get promoted from the Championship in the 22-23 season. Coming in at the bottom of the table in 24th place is Rotherham United. It doesn't really come as much of a surprise. They are most people's favourites to go straight back down and actually finish in 24th as well. It doesn't really help that they've lost their two best players last season, in my opinion, in Michael Smith and Michael Ikweke. Now, they've made a couple of signings in. Tom Eaves, I think, is interesting, but I don't really see the current signings that they made that they're going to necessarily survive. I felt they've been promoted with better squads before and have still found a way to get relegated, unfortunately. So for me, I think Rotherham will go down in 24th place. One thing you should notice about this table, which I don't think will be entirely accurate, there's very few points that actually separate 18th and 6th place. There's only 6 points that separate them. So you can tell how close I made this whole championship season, which it would be mad if it was like that in real life. And actually we've had a couple of these seasons when it's been this close. But from 18th to 6th, I don't think there will be 6 points in between. I don't necessarily think, especially from last season, from how pretty split it was in terms of quality in the two halves of the championship table. I don't think it's going to be that close, but I've had to make it this close just to easily adjust the teams which I want to, finish in certain positions. Coming up next in the table is Reading. Now, that also doesn't really come as much of a surprise. I mean, when I've seen a lot of people predict so far, the fact that Paul Ince has been given the permanent job, the signings that Reading have made so far have not really been the most inspiring. Potentially, even Tom Ince is probably the most inspiring signing, which is saying a lot considering how inconsistent he can be going forward. And I've got to say, they have lost a lot of players so far. Josh Laurent being the most recent one, and he's really going to be difficult to replace. Same with John Swift. Two of Reading's best central midfielders have gone to Championship rivals. I think it's going to be very difficult for them to keep them up, unfortunately. Coming in at 22nd place, as you can see, 22nd and 21st have got the same amount of points, 52 points. And to get relegated on 52 points, I actually think would be the most amount of points collected for a relegated team. And that team has gone to Birmingham. Now, Birmingham, I don't know if I really want to predict them to get relegated. It feels like Birmingham are a club that should feel too good to go down. But we had those same thoughts, for instance, for the likes of Derby and all those teams that have gone down, Sunderland, Sheffield Wednesday, all of those teams. But unfortunately, Birmingham at this moment of time, they're kind of in limbo. I don't know what's going on with their ownership. If Bassini is going to take over them, which I honestly pray for Birmingham fans' sake that he does not, then I definitely think there'll be a lot of toxicity at this club so far. They've been very, very slow in the transfer window. They've not lost too many players, but they've definitely not gained players either. I definitely think they do need a bit of adjustment in their squad to even push themselves with a decent improvement. They really finished in a disappointing position last year, 20th place, and also had Reading had not got their points deductions and Derby not got their points deductions. Birmingham probably would have narrowly survived in goal difference, and it's understandable why Birmingham are now a favourite to go down, which is a real shame, and a club at this stature shouldn't be run down to the core like that. So I hope Birmingham survive, but currently my predictions, I don't think they will, but I think it'll be very close. 21st place. Now, this team I also predicted to finish in 21st last year, my early predictions, and that was Blackpool. Now, this year, I'm a little bit more confident about this one because I think they are going to take a couple of steps backwards. They've lost the key part of what I felt that squad ticked, and that was their manager, Neil Critchley. He's gone to become the assistant head manager of Aston Villa following the departure of Michael Beale, who's joined Queen's Park Rangers. Michael Appleton as a manager, I think he has improved, over his years. We've seen him in assistant manager roles, recently with Leicester in the Premier League. But unfortunately, I just don't think he's cut for the Championship. I'm going to call it there. I could be horrendously wrong on this. He nearly got a Lincoln team up to the Championship, and he had no right to get Lincoln this close to a Championship season. He had a very difficult year last year. He wasn't featured for a good half of that season due to his cancer treatment, but even when he came back, it seemed that the squad felt quite defeated at Lincoln, and he's got to do a really good job to try and pick up that Blackpool team and to really make them continue for what looked like to be a positive bit of momentum for Blackpool. So I think that manager decision could come to bite Blackpool. I could be wrong on that. The fans aren't a bit sceptical on it, but I definitely can see the good part of his management, but he really needs to utilise the strengths of using CJ Hamilton and Josh Fowler right now. If they lose either one of them, I think Blackpool's going to struggle this year and maybe could even go down. 20th place for me is Wigan. Wigan's one tough team to predict, and a lot of the newly promoted teams, especially when you get promoted as champions, they're quite difficult to predict. You get a great variety of newly promoted teams. You get some, like for instance the Rotherhams, who go up and then they go straight back down, and then you see a newly promoted team and then do really, really well, and surprisingly do well as well. I think of Millwall and Sheffield United being two really good examples of that when they were first promoted from League One to the Championship in that same season, actually. So I feel like Wigan does have potential. I'm not too sure of Liam Richardson as a Championship manager, honestly. But I feel like it could be a similar thing we saw with Blackpool last year with them and Wigan. I don't think there's too many comparables though. And I do think with the squad that they've got, as long as they keep the likes of Will Keane, who scored so many goals for them last season, I think Wigan may have a fighting chance. But I definitely think it's not going to be as safe as a lot of people are suggesting it's going to be. From this period of the table onwards, it was really tough to predict. 19th place is Hull. Now, the thing is with Hull, I definitely wanted to push him up a little bit. I just found myself in a position where there were just too many teams I just felt would go ahead of Hull. I feel with their new ownership, I definitely think they will improve. And I've actually given them 56 points, which is a 5-point improvement from their last season. But I think with what Hull could get, they definitely can go up there. Now, they have been a little bit slow with the transfer business, which is probably why I've not pushed Hull a bit higher yet. I have a feeling Hull's going to be one of those teams that I think I will change, later down the line when the season gets closer, where I think they'll make more transfers at this time. 18th place is Cardiff. Now, there is no significant improvement for Cardiff either, because they also finished in 18th place. A good points improvement, 7-point improvement from last season. Cardiff's a weird one, because I feel like with the manager they go on Steve Morrison, I'm not sure. But the reason why I've kind of given Cardiff a small benefit of the doubt is because I actually like their transfers so far. But I feel like the transfer windows at time you may think is good, but I also think it can be a bit deceiving as well. I do think Cardiff, they've got some really, really good hitting players. I think Rina Motta is a really, really good signing for them. But I definitely feel some other ones, for instance, like Ebu Adams coming in from Forest Green to there, could be a bit of an unproven player. So I definitely think Cardiff have made great intent and actually getting a couple of right backs in as well, Vontae Daly-Campbell, and then they get Marlon Romeo as well. So their depth is really, really improved, and that I feel is why I've given Cardiff the benefit of the doubt for not putting him lower. And I do think another one like Hull, I definitely think Cardiff is going to be one I may move a bit higher, closer to my predictions, whilst I get a better idea about how the teams above them are currently doing their friendlies and how they're doing with their transfer windows. 17th place, which may be a bit surprising to you, but I've got QPR down in 17th, which is quite a drop from their 11th place finish under Mark Warburton. I think a big part of it is me not knowing how Michael Beale's going to be as a manager, to be honest. If he starts slow as a manager, 17th might be a realistic finish that QPR may finish in, I've got to be honest. So Michael Beale comes in, with a really good reputation of coaching players, but he's now taking the managerial job, his first senior manager role ever in his career. So it's a small risk for QPR, and I do think it could be a similar thing with Russell Martin, where it starts off slow, but then slowly but surely improves. But I don't know how ruthless this QPR board are going to be. They've got to set their expectations properly. If they've got high expectations, I do fear for Beale. If their expectations have been set realistically a little bit lower, then I do think Michael Beale will be given time. 17th, I feel like will be a bit of a disappointing finish for QPR, especially with what they managed to achieve in years prior to this. But I think they've also got to be a bit realistic of what they've got in their disposal. Sitting place is Blackburn Rovers. I think another similar one with Michael Beale and QPR. John Neil Thomason, I definitely think he's got some quality there. He's even got Champions League experience, which not many managers in the Championship can brag about. But I definitely feel Blackburn, I think, will lose more players. They've already lost Lenny Han, their captain. They've already lost Rothwell to Bournemouth. Liambe is pretty much confirmed to be leaving. And we don't know what's going to happen with Ben Brereton Diaz so far. And right now, I don't really know how they're going to cope with all of this. I just feel like it's lacking that little bit of depth for me. So I feel like another one I may move if I see Blackburn do more businesses in the transfer window. I think undoubtedly they need to get the manager in. And Thomason has been announced, but he has not been announced, for very, very long. He needs some time to know what he needs in his disposal, and I feel like give it time, and I definitely feel Blackburn will be a team I may improve with my positions, but I think Thomason being an unknown manager in the Championship, I think holds me a little bit of judgment compared to the other teams there. 15th place is Sunderland. Now I think that this is one of the ones that so many people have predicted so many different things for. So clearly a lot better than what I'm predicting with the other two newly promoted teams. The second highest newly promoted team is Wigan in 20th place. Hull are quite a fair bit above them, in fact, giving them 7 more points than Wigan as well. 17 wins and 17 defeats, which I gotta say, as of now, I feel like Sunderland aren't exactly there. I feel like they actually remind me, and they wouldn't want to draw me comparisons, they remind me a little bit of what Newcastle are currently going through. Not in terms of their ownership, but being a bit of a dark horse. They've got the momentum now. I do think, like Newcastle, bit of investment in the squad, and then they can take that momentum into a whole new height. So, whilst Newcastle may think, there's miles ahead of Sunderland now, I think Sunderland will start going on the rise again. I do think some people are saying that they'll finish well in the Championship because of how many fans they've got and how many they can fit into their stadiums. I understand that, but it's down to their squad too. And I think their squad as of now, I like that they managed to get Patrick Roberts back. I definitely think he could be a good help within the Championship. I do think Sunderland needed a little bit more for me to confirm this 15th place. I feel like as of now, that's the highest I want to predict with Sunderland at the moment, unless I see otherwise in their pre-season. I mean, when I saw them in the playoffs, they actually looked really, really good. And actually, what I really liked about them, they control games very, very well. And actually, when they lack that control, they are very organised. I think Alex Neil, being an experienced Championship manager, I think Sunderland will actually finish 15th. But they can finish high, I understand that, but also I'm bearing in mind the squad I don't think is necessarily good enough as it stands. So that's why I can't really predict Sunderland to finish any higher in my opinion. 14th place for me is Bristol City. Now it is a small improvement of their previous finish where they finished in 17th place. Bristol City, I feel like they should improve, but I feel like them and Stoke are quite similar. They get a load of great signings in. There's a lot of promise near the beginning of the season and then they fall off a little bit. And I feel like Bristol City always have a nagging inconsistency. They can do well at home but then bad away, and then vice versa in different periods of the season. That's pretty much what really summed up their season, really. I feel like it was very average. And I feel like now, if Nigel Pearson cannot get any improvements with his Bristol City side, I think he will get sacked or he'll leave the club. And to be honest, if Bristol City do start slow, I do think he will go, and I think they'll get someone more experienced in there. There's a lot of really good managers who I think are good enough in the Championship, with a vacancy at the moment. And I do feel like with a new, fresh manager in, I definitely think they can at least fulfill 14th. If anything, I think they should try and go for top half, in my opinion, with the squad that they've got. Their signings defensively have been really, really good so far. They've not lost anyone too major. I think the biggest loss so far has been Casey Palmer, but he's not even a first-team player. So, as of now, Bristol City have done well to keep their quality, but also to improve it too. So, 14th place, a small improvement of last season, I definitely think is on the cards for them. 13th place is Stoke City. Now, Stoke, I didn't want to predict too high, because I think their signings are good. But how often do we say this with Stoke? With them having a great transfer window, then they have one or two key important match-winning players injured. You know, last year they had the likes of Suter and Nick Powell injured at the same time. And that really destroyed their momentum to potentially go up the table. Because Stoke, at the start of the season, were right up there in the top 6-7. You know, and unfortunately, having those two injuries really set them back, unfortunately, and they never really recovered. Stoke, I think, with an injury-free squad, should be right up there. Even fighting, I'd say, for top 10, maybe even top 6 if things go their way. But for me, I feel like if one thing goes wrong, they'll just start capitulating again. And I think Michael O'Neill will be asked serious questions. I think 13th seems about right for Stoke. I feel like they'll finish in around a mid-table position again, but it definitely wouldn't suit their expectations, at least. 12th place is Preston North End. That is a very small improvement for Preston. They finished 13th place last season, and actually, Preston's a little wild card as well. I feel like this season, what's so difficult to predict about it? You know, we've seen QPR and Blackburn with promising new managers that could be dark horses. Sunderland, dark horse. Bristol City with signings, dark horse. Stoke City with signings, dark horse. Swansea City with good momentum, dark horse. All these teams that I feel like are real dark horses. And I feel like Preston are a team that kind of get overlooked a little bit. Their signings, albeit the goalkeeping positions they prioritise with Woodman and Cornell going in. But I definitely think Rhino's got the right idea. If he's getting that quality of signings just starting with a goalkeeper, just imagine what other signings he's going to make. And I definitely feel when Preston were playing under Ryan Lowe, if they play anything like they did when they beat Middlesbrough 4-1 at the end of last season, I think Preston will be a very dangerous team to play up against next year. We were just speaking of Swansea, they're next in the table. I mean, look at this. I mean, from Blackburn all the way up to 9th place, there's a tie on 63 points. It's not really going to happen, but I want to make it a little bit close and exciting at least. Swansea in 11th. I think some people are thinking Swansea could be top 6 contenders. I don't personally see that yet, but if they keep Joel Pirro, I think they do have a small chance to improve. It is also an improvement for Swansea because they finished down in 15th last season, and I definitely think with the positive momentum that they got with Russell Martin at the end of the season, I definitely feel that they're destined to have a much better start because right at the start of the season, they're in the bottom 3 and they had to really do some catch-up, and because of their good momentum there, Swansea actually were touching distance of top half. And I definitely think with a full season with Russell Martin, I think they will improve. I just don't think they may crack top 10. I think they'll fall just short of that. I think the teams from 10th place onwards are just not on another level, but I definitely think they're just a little bit ahead. Now, 10th place in the table for me is Millwall. That is a 1 place drop in terms of last season. I think right now, the only reason I think about that is just the very little business they've done. In my opinion, I definitely think Millwall are a decent team. They run decently well. They've got a good manager in charge, very experienced in the Championship. I just feel like Millwall will be around in the midst of it and then potentially have one too many draws. I mean, I predicted them to have 15 draws, which is actually, they've got more wins than draws. So maybe not so realistic by the way I've calculated Millwall's points, but 15 draws is still quite insane, to be honest, for a 10th place team. And I definitely think they will finish in around that position again. I'm not too worried about Millwall at the moment in this season. 9th place is Luton. Now, Luton, I think, is going to be very tricky to predict. They've made a couple of signings quite recently. Doughty and Cordy Woodrow going in, I actually think will be decent. I don't necessarily know if they're going to be the quality that Luton expect, but I think for squad fillers, I think they're really, really good signings there. Now, Luton obviously finished in the top 6 last season, and they've been on a bit of a good momentum where they've been improving in every single season they do. If this is fulfilled, it's going to be the first time Luton actually dropped down in a ranking, for quite a good number of years, and that will make things very interesting for me to see how Luton deal with that in the following season. I definitely feel with Nathan Jones and the squad they've got, I definitely think it should warrant a top 10 finish at least. It's a decent squad, and I think a lot of people really undermine, the quality they have, and the budget with they've got. I think Nathan Jones and Luton are working wonders, and they've done really, really well to get to this. And 9th place will still be a great finish. 8th place in the table is Coventry City. Matt, if he's watching, I think this is definitely a really nice finish for Coventry. It's definitely much better than what I predicted Coventry last year, I'll tell you this. I think Coventry are a team you've got to really keep your eyes on now. I know in the transfer window, they got Casey Palmer in, which is, I think an okay signing. I don't think a mind-blowing signing, but I think an okay signing for what they've got there. I definitely feel they are due a couple more transfers, Coventry, which is why I've not predicted them to finish any higher. But I definitely feel a bit similar with Luton. I think there's just some good positive momentum going round with Coventry. Going back at the CBS Arena was one thing, getting the fans back there. I think Mark Roberts as a manager, he's got the right idea to take this club forward there. I think the squad players they've got really good talents in O'Hare, Hamer and Gyökeres. I definitely think going forward, Coventry can ride this hype train and potentially get top 6. But I definitely feel at the moment, I just don't quite have the faith that they'll get there yet. Maybe with some signings, I'll reconsider it. But I definitely think you've got to really keep your eyes on Coventry next year. I think they'll definitely be a force. 7th place is Huddersfield Town. Now, Huddersfield, I think up there with Luton and quite a few teams, the hardest team for me to predict next year. As it stands, they've not really lost too many players so far. And right now, they've done a pretty good job keeping their squad together. They've not been very busy in the transfer market, which I'm not too surprised, because if maybe Corberán's looking at this squad thinking it's a great squad, it's taken me to this position, I definitely think they need a couple of options at the back, with Naby Sarr and Pippa leaving. I think they definitely need to fulfill in those areas there. But overall, I still think with Huddersfield containing the core of that squad, I think we'll get them right up there, at least top half. Huddersfield feels like one that I may move a bit lower with my predictions coming a bit closer. But with a couple of good signings, I could even push them top 6. Huddersfield, for me, was very, very difficult to predict. And when I saw them in 7, I thought, yeah, you know what, right now, that might be the best place I can put them right now. Because I'm undecided whether I feel they're going to be a top 6 team or they're going to be a mid-table team. So I'm really undecided what I feel about Huddersfield right now. Coming in the top 6 now, we have got West Brom entering the first top 6 with 66 points. So Huddersfield actually missed out on the top 6 by goal difference, which is very, very interesting for their part. Great improvement for West Brom if they get into the top 6, considering last season it was embarrassing. A 10th place finish being a year on parachute payment. They're definitely flexing their parachute payments a little bit. West Brom getting some of the signings in. I think especially John Swift is the one that really stands out so far. I'm excited how he's going to fit in that midfield position. If DK stays and has a full season, I think that will make things interesting in terms of an attacking sense. I don't necessarily back Steve Bruce as a manager, but he has experienced teams going out of the Championship before. He did it with Hull City, of course. And with Aston Villa, he took them into the top 6. Didn't get them out of it, but he took them into the top 6 at least. So he does know how to get teams into the top 6 in recent years. And West Brom, with the squad they've got, they should be top 6. It's really going to be, unfortunately, down to the individuals. And I'm hoping that they're really going to give him a kick up the backside and really improve, because they let the fans down last year. They were absolutely atrocious at times. And I feel like 6th is the very least they should be aiming for. And because I've not got too much faith with Steve Bruce and the team, that's why I can't predict them any higher. But I feel like with the squad, they should at least finish 6th. 5th place in the table is Burnley, so it's the first one of the newly relegated teams from the Premier League. I think the unknown of Company in the Championship is why I've not put them in the same level as Watford and Norwich. I'm excited to see how Scott Twine's going to do. I'm really excited about that, to be honest. He's someone I definitely wanted to see in the Championship, and I knew when I saw him play for MK Dons in the playoff semi-final and they lost, I knew he wasn't going to be an MK Dons next year. Him as a really young player with a lot of potential, I feel like Company is changing the identity of this squad, and I definitely think it's going to take a bit of time. It could even involve a slow start for Burnley. But I think with the experience and the leadership that company has, we all know how much of a great leader he is, as much as I hate to admit it. I'm watching him as a rival fan. And I definitely think the character that he has, I think, is going to be very, very important with this club. So I definitely think Burnley would take top 6 right now. But I definitely feel like they definitely would want automatic promotion at best. Of course, that's what everyone club wants in the Championship these days. 4th place in the table for me is Sheffield United. That is a 1-place improvement of last season. Sheffield United's another one when I'm not too sure, but it really tells you, the quality of teams we're getting in and around the Championship these days is ridiculous. I definitely think Sheffield United were actually really unlucky not to go through against Nottingham Forest. Of course, Nottingham Forest being promoted out of the Championship eventually in the playoff final, and I think Sheffield United were very unlucky there. Year 2 parachute payment as well with West Brom, so I definitely feel they'll have the funds to get some more players in. Been a bit slow in terms of getting people in, but on the whole, they've kept quite a big chunk of that squad that was very, very important to them. Losing Gibbs White is going to be interesting, but I definitely feel like if they get a really good replacement in, I definitely think they will be a really, really good force next year. I feel like another one that I'm going to have to wait for transfers before I definitely confirm where I know I'm going to put them. But if they keep the fundamentals of what really put them within touching distance of going up last year, then I think Sheffield United will be in this position again. 3rd place for me is Watford. Now this is very, very close. Watford, I remember predicting as champions 2 years ago, and I think I was a little bit foolish with the squad. And now I've even seen them in the Championship season in my own eyes. I feel like they are a team that actually do play like they can play well in the Championship, a little bit similar with Norwich. They go through peaks and troughs of form, and I do think Watford, with a new manager, Rob Edwards, I tell you what, we're getting a lot of young, new managers in the Championship, which I think is making things exciting in terms of the brand, and it definitely adds the unknown part of it, which is always very exciting as a neutral fan. But I definitely feel at the start, I think Watford will struggle. I think they've got the 3 toughest games to start things off, to get Burnley, West Brom, and I think Sheffield United as well in their opening 3 games is never easy. I'm predicting those 3 teams to be the other 3 teams finishing with Watford in the top 6. So I think Watford are going to find it a bit tricky at the start. I think if Rob Edwards actually gets success there, I'll be pleased for him, because the turnover rate for managers is never great. And I definitely feel if they do go through a couple of managers in the Championship, I think it could disrupt things. And that's why I don't feel Watford will get 2nd place. I know it did work for them when you had Ivic at the start, and then they had Munoz in the second part of their season. But I feel like the competitiveness of the top 2 this year, I just think are on another level. 2nd place in the table, I'm turning the lights on because this is a very, very important part of the table, is Middlesbrough. Now, for me, Chris Wilder, as a manager, already ticks a box, because I feel like with a full season, he should get a team in the Championship in the top 6 at least. But then you had the signings they've already got. Lenny Ham at the back really improves things as well. And I am really loving the fact they've got wing backs in Isaiah Jones one side and Ryan Giles now in the other. Left back was a really problematic position for Middlesbrough last year, and for me, I know Ryan Giles is not recognised as a left back, but he can play left wing back or left wing. The fact they've got these versatile players that I think are devastatingly good at their role, I think Middlesbrough have really used the transfer window well. I definitely feel maybe one striker wouldn't hurt Middlesbrough's chances. But if they're linked with Adam Armstrong, which I knew they were linked with, and they've been linked with a lot of players, Middlesbrough, I definitely feel right now Middlesbrough's team is very scary. And Middlesbrough will be a bit of a surprising team, to finish in 2nd. They've not been promoted out of the Championship, I think, since 2016. So it would be nice to see them back in the Premier League just for a little bit of variety. And I definitely feel now with the manager and the squad, I think now's more than the right time for them to go back up. This means 1st place, probably a bit predictable. Norwich City, 96 points, over 7 points of 2nd place Middlesbrough. For me, I feel like Norwich will storm the league again. 12 defeats is quite big for a champion winning team. But I definitely had to make things a little bit interesting. Now, I feel like Norwich is quite an erratic team in general. I definitely feel Norwich go gun-ho and they either smash teams or they get smashed themselves. And I feel like because of their success rate of being able to go forward with their attack and how clinical they are in the Championship, I still think they will get promoted as champions. Dean Smith in charge, which will make things very interesting. I know he's experienced in the Championship. He managed to get Aston Villa promoted from the Championship playoffs. So he does have the quality there if you give him the right squad. And I definitely think Dean Smith has got the squad that can take them back into the Premier League. So guys, these are my early predictions concluded. Is there anyone you're surprised with? Is there anyone I've been too harsh on? Anyone been too generous on? Let me know in the comments down below. And guys, let me know of what your early predictions are for the Championship 22-23 season. I'll be very interested to know. But that wraps up for today. If you guys enjoyed the video, please give the video a like. It just tremendously help the growth of this channel. Please do hit the subscribe button as we're nearly at 1,200 subscribers. It would be really appreciative if we can get that. And please also share this channel as well. That would also be appreciative. That wraps up. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary if you saw the end of this video. And as always, I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.